and TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio with Billy Liucci, who's joining us now. I got to say, I think that might be an inside joke reference to you, maybe.
Star Wars?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Because that guy on the escalator.
Lord Vader?
Did we say this? I know I said it in Louisiana. Some guy jumps on the escalator in Hoover. You know, I had just gotten there and had a black mask hanging off my ear. And there's like a bunch of people on the escalator, and I'm carrying my smoothie up.
Yeah.
I just gotten there. I'm wearing warm-ups. Hadn't even gone to the room yet. So the mask is like hanging off my ear. And I take it and put it on. There are like 8 million people, coughing people on the escalator. So I was like, is it? And I put the mask back on, and this guy's going up the escalator, and he looks at me like skateboard dude, like in his 40s. And it looked like a back of the neck tattoo. And he looks at me, he goes, Lord Vader? And I said, I feel like him. And he like looked back at me. I said, because I want to choke you. And I was like, I probably shouldn't have said that. But I feel like choking people today, President Loftin, as probably do a lot of Aggies. But it's been a wild 48 hours or so, has it not?
Yeah, I took a vacation at the wrong moment.
Dr. Loftin joining us here on the BCS Eye Associates hotline. All right, so Dr. Loftin, I know you talked to ESPN recently. Can you kind of shed some light to the gentleman's agreement from back in the day when you helped navigate A&M to the SEC? What was said to you guys and understood about Texas never joining the SEC?
Well, there's two parts to it, David. One is that just among the presidents and chancellors from all the SEC schools, it was just commonly discussed. Well, if Florida State wants to join, Florida has a veto power over that. If Clemson wants to join, same thing for South Carolina. If Georgia Tech wants to join, same thing for Georgia. So that was how it was understood. That's what I meant by a gentleman's agreement among us. More specifically, we flew over to New Orleans in 2011, right as this was coming to a head, as our joining the SEC progressed in fits and starts because of others. But we flew over there, and I had regents with me. There were 3 regents with me. We met with Mike Slive, then the commissioner of the SEC, Chuck Berger, who was the architect of the SEC network, and another official from the SEC office. And Mike was asked very specifically about whether Texas would be ever considered as a member of the SEC. And the answer was, it's up to us. That Texas A&M would have the ability to say yes or no to that. Now, that was then, this is now. Mike is not only no longer the commissioner, but he's also passed away. Moreover, almost all the leadership of the schools that were in place when I was part of this mix are now gone, at least from their roles. And so it's a new world in that sense of the word. And as the podcast I do with Gabe and John Heidke says, follow the money.
Yeah,
this is really about money. I'm sure we all understand that. And you can just see the wheels turning here in the minds of the SEC, but also the ESPN people about how this can play out for them.
Bowen, I wrote this, and I want to see what you think of this. If this goes back as long as I've been led to believe it does, and no one knows better than you how long these things take to get to the point that it seems like this is with Texas and Oklahoma, where they would no-show that meeting yesterday. So the runway needed to get to that point better than anyone. So when I tell you that, you know how long, roughly, this has been going on. And I think if you trace it back, it's probably, and based on what I've heard, it's right about the time to when ESPN got the deal over CBS. Do you think I'm completely off base here for writing it last night and saying that I think it's very feasible that ESPN said, take the deal with us and we'll get you OU in Texas? Because it gave them the ability to finally get rid of the Longhorn Network, which has been a kind of an albatross. It not only got them the SEC, it enhanced the SEC to add 2 national brands in college football, power brands, and then it also delivered an absolutely crushing blow, in my opinion, to Fox, and because it basically destroyed the Big 12. Do you think that type of conspiracy theory is off base, knowing what you know about the business?
Not at all. Going back more than 10 years, in 2010, I became aware of probably a 6-month or longer effort between Larry Scott and the Pac-10 at the time, and the leadership, DeLoss Dodds and Bill Powers, especially at UT Austin, in conversations, intense negotiations about not just Texas moving to the West Coast, but also other schools here coming with them. And that was totally done without even talking to anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Scott came to me in 2010 with a complete schedule for all sports in a 16-team Pac-16 conference with 2 divisions, all planned out. That didn't happen overnight. That was a lengthy process.
That Texas A&M
right,
that Texas A&M was completely in the dark about, correct?
Oh, I heard a few rumors like you've heard this week.
Yeah.
But it was something that had been going on for months and months prior to our learning about it. And we were simply kept out of in the dark. And I feel betrayed here because the SEC was attractive to me and I think the A&M because we saw ourselves there being treated equally. That it was a consultative kind of group that ran the SEC, and that we would all be at the table. And if this has happened without that, that is really a fundamental shift in the culture of the SEC in my mind.
Agreed. I agree 100%. And the other part that blows my mind about this is money is one thing. Like you said, follow the money, and we get that. We understand that that's the world we live in college sports today. I thought Greg Sankey gave an absolute no answer to us yesterday, and I went back and read it. He gave a very telling answer when you go back and read what he said in writing. And this is about where everything's going and him trying to, in whatever way, keep the league ahead of it. But you're right. It was a betrayal of A&M by I don't know how many people, or it might have been by one person. I know that 2 days ago he told multiple A&M people that there was nothing to worry about in the way of those rumors, in the way of expansion, to their face. So my question to you, though, is, are they just looking at only the money here, Bowen? Or at what point do they not – they know what Texas did with the Pac-16. They know what happened with the Longhorn Network. They know what happened with Nebraska, Missouri, A&M, Colorado. They know what they've done with or tried to do with Tech and Baylor. They know what happened with the Southwest Conference, with the Big 12. And you're still bringing that into the league. I'm just like, how long is it going to be before Texas insists that SEC Media Days are held in Dallas and they start playing championship games rotating in Texas?
Well, it may be inevitable, Billy. I don't know the answer to that clearly, but I think this has to be driven by ESPN.
Yeah,
they're trying to cut their losses with LHN. That's been a problem for quite a while. They're trying to capitalize on what happened with the CBS situation and the SEC. But moreover, this is going to do a lot of things. This is going to not only fundamentally affect us, Texas A&M, and the SEC, but this could be the beginning of a whole nother realignment of a much larger magnitude than we saw back in 2010, 2011. How can the Big Ten set aside this and not deal with it? And Fox will be pushing them hard on that particular issue for the reasons you've already cited. The Pac the same way. They're going to look at this and say, how can we make this work for us too? So, and the Big 12 may become basically an empty suit. So we're looking then again at the Larry Scott vision I heard about in 2010 of a 4-16-team conference world, not a Power 5, but a Power 4. And that's a real possibility right now, given this shift. So it's not just A&M, it's not just the SEC by itself. It may be a fundamental realignment of the entire college sports world for the next several months. That's what I'm seeing.
Dr. Loftin, what can A&M do right now, and what can fans and alumni do? Is there anything, or is the train too far off removed?
I can't judge. Bowles thinks it's a done deal, according to what he said today. And I really think that Dr. Banks, our president, has to be strong about this. She has to talk to every individual president and chancellor in the SEC and say, do you really want this to be happening to you someday? I mean, as it was said earlier today, can Florida now say no to Florida State?
Precedent set.
USC say no to Clemson. I mean, Clemson's a brand now. I mean, why not bring them in, okay, as well? If you want Texas, why not Clemson? Get that East Coast sewed up really nicely there. Can USC say no to that? I don't think they can if this goes forward. So this fundamentally changes the makeup of the SEC and its understandings and its camaraderie and egalitarian spirit, which I moved into very deliberately. I said to myself back in the day, we want to be in the SEC because we fit, because everybody's treated the same there. And all of a sudden the rules are changing radically.
Yeah, it sounds like when you look at like you said, what's to keep the SEC from going to 18 and deciding they want to go to 18 and adding a Clemson and a Virginia Tech, or a Clemson and a Georgia Tech, or Florida, a Clemson and Florida State sounds real nice right about now. If we're going to do 16, let's go 18. So do you see, Bowen, any which way that this thing goes to something even larger than 4 16-team super conferences?
It really could, Billy. I mean, back in the day again, 10 years ago, when we were talking to Slive and the other leadership of the SEC, they were talking East. They felt the West was sewed up now. They had us. They had Missouri. Of course, Arkansas was still there, LSU. So the West was really in good shape.
Yeah.
They looked East, and they said, what states do we have no presence in, but there's a great school there? UNC was a hot topic for a while, bringing in North Carolina, which is a populous state now. Virginia Tech was discussed, bringing in Virginia. That's a huge market right there as well. That's the kind of conversations we were having a decade ago about expanding the SEC beyond 14 teams, was going East, not West. And this was a surprise to me. I mean, I can understand it. I get the money. I understand that viscerally. But there's also a sense of geography and a sense of fit. How well, I mean, OU is not a bad fit, honestly, for the SEC. Mm-hmm. But Texas, they don't really see themselves as that kind of school.
Well, all I've read this week are Longhorn fans saying we'll never chant SEC, and I've told the ones that I actually am friends with, your fans will be doing it the first time you play Ohio State 100. Or Michigan, and it's the fourth quarter. But it will be awkward. I do not think it's fit. I think they're a perfect fit for the Big Ten. I know politics is a whole nother animal, but just, I mean, you were there and you saw all the roadblocks that were put up. I mean, you guys had to navigate them for how long? From Baylor, from Texas Tech, from Texas. Is there any part of you that kind of pauses when you hear done deal and you say, okay, maybe a done deal, but if you guys think this is happening tomorrow, you're out of your right minds? Because I've got to think that people from around the Big 12 and Aggies are lining up in positions of power. And if it comes out that Governor Abbott, I mean, he had to have known about this for maybe the better part of a year, while taking millions of dollars from Aggies, Baylor Bears, Texas Tech Red Raiders, and TCU Horned Frogs. How do you reconcile that if you're the governor? And it's just, talk to me about the landmines that stand between this deal and a finish line politically.
I would say at the very beginning here, passing laws is not what it's all about. That's the wrong direction to go in right here. It takes too long. It's the wrong thing to try to meddle at that level. But look at the past. Look at the 90s. The governor of this state, Texas, as well as another governor, made it clear that we're not going to have A&M go to the SEC.
Yeah.
Made it clear the Big Eight's not going to become a 10-team conference, but a 12-team conference. That was dictated to the leadership of Texas A&M and Texas. I talked to the people who heard this from the governor's lips directly, from the lieutenant governor's lips directly. We're going to make that happen. Otherwise, you're going to be doomed financially by us as leaders of this state.
Yeah.
That happened in the 90s. Okay. Fast forward in 2010, we shut everything down when A phone call was made to the UT board leadership and to the A&M board leadership by a politician saying, no, don't do this. Okay. Here we are now in 2021. Next year is an election year. Abbott has to be thinking about the politics of this whole situation. He has a very tough primary coming up next year.
Yeah.
Do you really want to tick off Aggies, Texas Tech Raiders, TCU Horned Frogs, the folks from Baylor? You want to tick them off and make them really abandon you as a governor candidate going forward? I don't quite understand that. I got the money. That's fully understood. But politically, I don't understand the calculus that must be going through the governor's mind right now. This happens. It stirred it up in 2010, big time. What changed between 2010 and 11 was clearly the Longhorn Network made the Aggie Nation very different in their mindset. And that made the governor feel much more comfortable. By that point, the primary was behind him. No problem.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Dr. Loftin, we got to cut it right there. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. I had a lot more I wanted to get with you, talk to you about, but we cannot do it right now. Thanks so much for joining us here on TexAgs Radio.
More time to come. Don't worry, guys.
we appreciate it.
Take care. Bye-bye.